Welcome to Tai Chi Salon. I'm here with my friend, Master Steven Asherman. He's a Yang style master, my senior classmate at W.C.C. Chen, also my teacher. And I do certainly miss getting hit in the face by this guy on Wednesday nights. Uh, he is also the web administrator of ContentGalaxy.com, which is a very extensive resource for internal arts videos and study of the art. So let's get right into the first question. So what's been keeping you busy these days, Stephen?
So let me share Content Galaxy so we can talk about that. And are you seeing that okay?
Yes, yeah, it's great.
So first, let me just explain a little bit about Content Galaxy. So I've been working on this web service for creating paid subscription video channels based on revenue sharing. It's called Content Galaxy, and it's designed for streaming valuable content that's hard to sell, especially instructional, news, and special interest videos. So as a proof of concept, with Master Chen's help and his DVDs, I put together a Tai Chi and martial arts channel.
Okay.
And then I added Don Ethan Miller's Chen Men Ching DVDs. And then I added some of Tiffany Chen's cell phone footage of Master Chen, and then Dr. Tao's DVDs. And then Max Chen gave me some old format video from Master Chen and Josh Waitzkin. And then Josh Waitzkin gave me some really great competitive footage. So we'll drill down a little, because I think this relates to some of the stories that you've asked me about.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've noticed is we've definitely seen an increase in subscribers, from the pandemic.
Survivors and subscribers.
At least Master Chen and Don Miller are both getting paid nicely based on the amount of viewing subscribers do and any subscription sales that originate from any of their links. So
what is involved? What is involved to the listener who may be listening to this interview? What is involved with obtaining a subscription?
So there's a bunch of interesting ways of getting a subscription. The easiest one is just to go to ContentGalaxy.com and try watching a video. And as soon as you try watching a video, it will ask you to subscribe. But you can also go to Master Chen's site. You can go to many of his students' sites. And when you try to watch a video on their sites, you'll also be asked to subscribe. And then after that, you can just log in with your Facebook ID or Google ID.
Okay.
So since the start of the pandemic, I haven't so much been working on adding new videos as been working with another developer at Content Galaxy to add blockchain support. And the idea is to make revenue sharing easier to trust.
Okay.
Anyway, the last year has been a century, but it's been productive.
Indeed. So this is one of the main questions that I want to ask you today, and that is, you are in a unique position, I think. Maybe not the only person, but certainly one of the persons that I'm in contact with, and I've had an opportunity to work with and study with, who is a lifelong student of William Chen. So maybe you could talk about that the experience of being, when you started, and what's changed or evolved about his teaching methods through the years.
Sure. So I started in 1969.
Wow,
so,
that's so awesome.
So if we look at what's out there, it's under Master Chen, you'll see we've got his body mechanics, his short form, push hands, how to punch, long form, and this interesting page called applications, where I just put a bunch of videos some of which come from very early on. So here are some really interesting early videos. So one of the earliest videos I've got is this one with Master Chen. I think it's 1968, so I think it's right before I started. And he's giving a demo at West Point. And he's doing the one where he takes a wallet out of his pocket and uses it as a punch.
Okay.
Right. In this video, you see a bunch of astounded West Point officers getting to see William do the martial arts side. So when I started, William was really totally martial arts oriented. And when I started, I was looking for a martial arts teacher. And I had wandered around New York City, and there were very few places open to Westerners. Most of them were run by ex-servicemen back from Korea or Japan. And this is before Bruce Lee and any of those guys. And it was considered to be unacceptable for a Chinese master to teach Westerners. And William is one of the earliest people who broke that. And Chen Manqing had a school at the same time, but I had no interest in Tai Chi per se. I was interested in looking at the different alternatives for martial arts. And William's school then had much more emphasis on that. So there were just two kinds of classes. There was a beginner's class where you learned the form. And once you finished that class, the only way you went back to it was maybe to help teach. But then you went into his regular class, and his regular class was made up of doing the form, doing some push hands, doing some martial arts applications, mostly kicks and punches, and then maybe a little bit of sparring, and maybe even a couple of multiple person type attacks against a single person.
Wow.
So every class was like that. And this was when Priscilla was still a student, and my wife was a student as well. And they used to push hands. It was pretty good. And we're actually, there's a good picture of Master Chen getting kicked by my wife from Stern magazine, which came and did pictures. Now, there was no such thing as Tai Chi push hands competition, but there was a real active community of people who pushed hands all over the place. And, Central Park, on my roof, those kinds of ad hoc things. And so the orientation was really martial arts, the use of Tai Chi in martial arts. And that was kind of William's specialty. And he was the only teacher of Tai Chi, and maybe still is one of the very few, who really combined the two. Chen Manqing had a school at the same time downtown, and there was some rivalry between them. His students used to every so often come up to William's class, and I would go every so often to Chen Manqing's school. Chen Manqing really didn't do anything with his students, but William, just like he is today, was always hands-on working with people. And so it was a great experience. And one of the most important differences, I think, was on of course, it's fun to spar with William because he always made you feel good. But in the push hand side, I think that's something that really has changed, and we've lost a little something, because his push hands originally was just the bridge between the form and fighting. And William would work with every student in turn. He'd line us up, and we'd sort of go down the line, working with each one of us for a few minutes on whatever was of interest for that day. And I still have one or two videos I want to add of that. One of the best videos on the site on this you see, I know you and I have done this exercise a lot. These were two of his original advanced students, and I took a bunch of lessons from them. And so this was a case of one student is the aggressor, and the other student is sort of the recipient of that.
Or neutralizer, whatever.
And they're the neutralizer. And that back and forth exercise, I think, showed a lot of where William was coming from. He would work on that with everybody, or he would just stand there and let you push him repeatedly, and you'd push him into the wall, and he'd come back, and you'd push him some more, and he'd correct your pushes. So you can see I still kind of work with students that way, because I thought that was really a useful set of exercises. Yeah, I think that kind of tells you the difference. Over time, my impression was that William got a little bored with push hands and decreased teaching it. And then when competitive push hands started coming up, he became much more interested again. And, you know, there's something no baloney about him, in the sense that he wants measurable results. And so his evidence was, oh, his students are winning, and I can help them win. And so he got real renewed interest in push hands again, which, you know, is still there to this day. But the flavor has changed. Just like the flavor of, you know, classes being taught by Max, with William's emphasis, where the emphasis is more on, you know, real competition.
Yeah.
Whereas New York City was a dangerous place in the 70s. And so William was much more on this self-defense orientation. And just, this is a great picture of William and Max sparring. This is more like the 90s. I started sparring with Max when he was 13. I knew I was going to be in trouble. I had sort of figured that I could last till he was about 17. And then when he was about 17, I realized, oh, if I'm going to even keep up with him and get him to force me to improve, I was really going to have to work harder.
So Steven, one of the things that I've gotten from you that I don't necessarily see too much anymore at the school is the kicking aspect of Sanshao, of the fighting, in addition to the boxing.
I think the kicking is very important, and I have to say that it's one of the most important exercises I do now. And William's style of kicking is much more relaxed than, you know, the karate style of kicking. But, you know, kicking, there's a real overlap between kicking and Tai Chi. Kicking really forces your balance to be an issue. And William could do all these amazing kicks, and I had decided I couldn't do any of that stuff, these multiple kicks. And so I spent the next 50 years basically working to do what he did, you know, in his 30s, I guess he must have been at that point. And they're great balance exercises. And of course, kicking has this other advantage, which is that it uses large muscles. And so as opposed to punching, just the act of kicking is a major form of physical workout. And so I think, and his emphasis was on kickboxing. So if you would spar, you would wear these, you know, Japanese protection from kendo.
Yeah, the sword, yeah.
And boxing gloves. And so that was really his emphasis. There was nothing like grappling going on, but of course, grappling in a multiple attacker situation is, you know, out of the question. So the whole issue was basically gangs of kids, of kids of various ages. So I think that had a real benefit, because that's really where I was coming from. I wasn't interested in getting in the ring with anyone, although some of Master Chen's students early on did get in. They were all ad hoc things. It was nothing formal, but they were pretty brutal. Some of William's more advanced students would, let me see if any of these. Yeah, here's an old, these are old videos that Max gave me that, took some real finagling just to be able to see as the quality of the tape disappears. So one of my main concerns, here's.
I remember seeing this one.
And I think this is a picture of me doing something which I never got to do very often. It just happened to be a good picture, so I kept it of me actually connecting with one of William's really outstanding students. Remember George? And so this William's way of teaching boxing was a sort of slow motion, gentle. It would speed up. It was never hard. It was always designed, you left your hands down. William would fight, without, and I sort of agree more with Max these days and have over the years, Max has you keep your hands up. And I definitely am a big believer in that. But William was much more interested in just your being relaxed and slipping. So his emphasis on slipping, I think, is a very important one.
Well, one of the things you always tell me, Steven, when we work together is a slip is better than a block.
Yes.
That was one of your phrases that you'd always bring up.
I like that.
Slip is better than a block. That's in my Steven Asherman archive. Yeah.
And of course, a person may expect a block, but a slip, they're going to go a little too far in the other direction. And that was really always the connection with push hands. You expect a solid surface when you push something. And when it just sort of melts away, it causes you can't help it. It causes you to lean in and go too far. So I think this is all consistent with his early way of teaching. That you can see, I sort of have some of the last remnants of that attitude, as opposed to the attitude which is you better be prepared to withstand real, standing in a corner, getting beat on because you're so tired, you just can't afford to use the energy to slip or the energy to move too much. But of course, that picture is the picture of a bout with a referee and there's only one opponent kind of setup.
Interesting. This is all awesome stuff. One of the things I wanted to make sure that I get you to talk about today is a little bit of Master Chen's contemporary, Dr. Tao, who you had a chance to study with, early on and before he passed away, and a lot of your methods that you teach incorporate some of the things that you learned from him. Could you talk a little bit about Dr. Tao?
So Dr. Tao was amazing, and he came at a very important point in my own development. So Dr. Tao, at the time, William Chen was the youngest student of Chen Man-cheng, and Dr. Tao was the oldest living student of Chen Man-cheng. And you can sort of see the content galaxy orientation. The content galaxy orientation is very much is Chen Man-cheng and his students. So not just Yang style, but Yang style students of Chen Man-cheng. And so Chen Man-cheng was Yang Chang-fu's student, who was the grandson of Yang Lu Chen.
Right, the originator of his style.
And of course, the big difference between the Yang style and the Chen style is this overarching emphasis on softness as being sort of the most important quality. Softness, reacting to what was being done to you as opposed to imposing your will. And so Dr. Tao was known as the softest of the soft. And this was a period of time when I started studying with him. He would visit William's school and stay for a month, sleep in the studio. And that was sort of his interesting way. He was a traveler of the world, going from place to place teaching Tai Chi. And so he would maybe spend a month out of every year or two at Williams. And he really emphasized push hands as the bridge between the form and fighting.
Okay.
Not as something in and of itself, but something whose point was to make you a better martial artist. But winning push hands was never the point to him. He would stand there and he would make fun of us if we started shoving on each other. And he would go like this, like two bulls. And he would always say, giving way, relax, yielding. That was his big, repeated way of talking about it, yielding. And he was really a master of that. And he was obviously a brilliant guy, because when you pushed hands with him, you would try to trap him. And of course, he's always yielding. And so what you find out if you yield is you yield and yield and yield until you're dead. No, yielding is not the whole story. And so learning to yield and make use of the position that you're yielding into was a big part of what he was teaching.
Uh-huh.
So he didn't care about any of the rules. So if you notice this top picture, this was a really typical way that he would work. He would stand against the wall, right? He didn't care about fixed feet. And of course, William, as opposed to Chen Manqing school, Chen Manqing always taught fixed step. William Chen always taught moving step.
Okay.
And so that's one of the early differences, to go back to your previous question. Dr. Tao, he just didn't give a damn. There was no way he was standing still against some big guy. He would move around, but it wasn't like he needed to run for the hills, because he would put his back against the wall and let you push against him. So he was very important to me, because I started to become the only person at Master Chen's school who really didn't agree with the emphasis on push hands as a competitive sport. And meanwhile, William's school was starting to win more and more important contests, and we would have Josh Waitzkin and Max, and a bunch of his Irvin Yee, and a bunch of people who were competing seriously. And I felt, and even William reached this realization in his mind, you could see. He said, sometimes you just got to stand there. If you don't just stand there and you sort of are in this position, and you just keep yielding and yielding and yielding, then the guy will do like this to you, right? And push you and push you and push you until you have to move and lose the point. And so all of William's students, and William himself, became very concerned about yielding versus rooting. The need to really be able to root, the need to be much more aggressive, And I had always seen the aggressive side as more important. And, there's lots of ways to learn to hit hard, to push hard. Whereas yielding is Tai Chi is the only, maybe Judo a little bit, maybe Aikido a little bit, but no martial art emphasizes softness and yielding and the use of that the way Tai Chi does. And Dr. Tao was the master of that. And I sort of, at a crucial point, needed the reinforcement. And he sort of came more and more into the picture for me as people became more seriously interested in winning at push hands. And I became more seriously interested in trying to understand how Tai Chi is taking advantage of some natural things about our brains that are inherent weaknesses that can be taken advantage of. In fact, that's why I think it's the grand ultimate martial arts, because even if you know everything, you are still subject to those same tricks of your brain. You can be fooled by the same things. Doesn't matter how many years, right? There are certain natural things that are part of the way our brain works, which is we expect solid. When we touch something, we expect it to be solid. Our whole existence has told us that. And Dr. Tao was more about, oh no, you're yielding in a way that a person's brain can't even help. They've got to follow. So I'm still highly influenced by him, although clearly the things I teach are from a lot of William's early teaching about how to yield out of things. And so one of the things I tried to do on Content Galaxy is I did something that you'll find very little of out there, which was, okay, here's William teaching how to do straight pushes. So now we're really back to the getting power out of push hands, right? But I tried to get more about yielding. And so here's a video where William is showing somebody pushing and he's showing how to relax and yield. And here's a really standard thing. He says he can't do this anymore, but he really still can. He can't go all the way down to the floor, but this guy is trying to push him and he's showing you how to yield out. And here's some more where he's showing yielding sideways and push hands. And of course, this was the way he would try to teach people, by having them have no choice.
Yeah.
But he's like a mad scientist in the sense he's interested especially in how to create power. And so a lot of what's on Content Galaxy is more about creating power than it is about how to use yielding. And there's one video of me pushing with Josh Waitzkin. Oh, here's a great video of Josh Waitzkin, who he won 5 gold medals. And finally, he was pushing against these super heavyweights, right? And this is him actually succeeding at one. He didn't win the super heavyweight. I think he got the silver medal, but really, look at this. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a video of him pushing against the upstate master, Steven.
This is it.
Oh, that's him?
That's him, and he's awesome. He's awesome. I've pushed him. Right, he's awesome.
What's his last name?
Let's see.
I'm friends with him on Facebook. I should know his last name.
I know, but I'm terrible.
The big guy.
Steve Watson. Right. So Steve Watson's an excellent.
Stephen Watson. Yeah. He has a farm upstate.
And he's an excellent martial artist. You see, there are some champion martial artists who really, they're not a champion push hands, and they really are not great martial artists. in the sense of, William's sense. And then there are some who really are, come from a background of martial arts and are awesome martial artists. Don Miller is definitely one of those people who is just an awesome martial artist. I don't know if you've met him.
No, but I did meet Stephen Watson, and I did actually attend a workshop of his as well.
And I think there's a video of me. It was very interesting. I don't know if I caught the picture. So I went in somewhere in here. There's a picture. There's a video of me trying to push hands with Josh Waitzkin. I'll find it a different time.
Okay, that's fine. Awesome. Awesome to hear about Dr. Tao.
Dr. Tao taught things. He taught so much that I started to the exercises, the various exercises that we do together. I started to realize this guy had hundreds of them, literally hundreds of them. And so
right, the exercises that I still do. Right. Number one, number two. What do we start calling these? Number one, number two, number three.
Right.
I mean, because Dr. Tao was obviously a little bit difficult to understand, in terms of his command of the language, and
it was impossible to understand.
Okay.
And so people have asked me, this video will give you some interesting solo exercises of Dr. Tao. This was in Philadelphia. So one of the places he would stay.
That's your old rack, the chest, push, press. Right.
Right, and this also includes a bunch of other, sort of one person. Here's another one showing his one person warm up exercises.
Right, that looks like a number one, number two, number three sort of exercise.
Yes, and he had hundreds of those, and so I realized is I better start saving the ones that I thought had the most martial implications. So there's the Fred Astaire. You remember that one?
Fred Astaire is awesome. Of course I do. I got that one. That's part of my curriculum.
So
yeah.
You started to realize that you didn't have to totally understand him to watch again the way his body moves. And I think that's the key to understanding how to work with William, although William has really sophisticated understanding of English. So he gets very fine points across. Dr. Tao, you just really have to do it based on watching him move and then touching and feeling him.
Yeah.
There was always this sort of sense, of, trying to trap him and seeing how that would backfire on you. And of course, he really was a great martial artist. I once saw him do something I'll never forget. He was, in his mid-80s, and he was just writing something, sitting around waiting, and the pen dropped and he picked it up. And it was such a fast move. It was like it was blindingly fast. And it all is boiling down to this, principle of just go, right? Of what is it? William's whole emphasis on, what does it take to get fast, and how does the form help you learn how to do that? Okay.
Awesome. So I have one more general question for you, and then I'm going to go to a section that I do with all my the people that I've interviewed. And I hope you will indulge me in participating in that section, and that is my definition section. I'm going to give you a word, and you're going to give me a 1 or 2 sentence answer, if possible, to the word that I give you. But before we do that, let me ask you this: what do you feel are the most important things you've learned from your study of the martial arts?
Well, now that's kind of a big question.
It is a big question. I know. This is one of my big questions. You can take your time with this one.
Well, there are some basic principles, right? One I learned from music, right? Which I'm sure you understand that one. which is going slow makes you fast. And of course, the single most important Tai Chi principle, I would say, is softness overcomes hardness. And William said something very early on in my training, which stuck with me, which was, stay cool or you lose the edge your training provides. So this is, basically, the English coolness under fire, which has, made a big difference in my life. I have been under fire, and if you don't stay cool, you burn yourself out and you make poor decisions. And he's right, you lose the edge that your training, planning provide. And now, I think there's something very special. So I don't know if all internal arts teach it, but I think most of them do. This connection between your breathing and this way of connecting your conscious and unconscious, and the importance of learning to control and understand your breathing. And of course, Tai Chi, as opposed to yoga, must have 15 kinds of breathing in it. And a lot of martial arts talk about breathing, but the breathing in Tai Chi is very simple in the sense that it's just plain abdominal breathing. That's what it's most frequently called. And this business of timing it to the form, I think, is part of the benefits you get. I think I've become a real believer in the health benefits of Tai Chi. So I'm relatively an old guy, not as old as Alex, but still a relatively old guy, but I'm still reasonably flexible and knock on, reasonably healthy. And I think Tai Chi has definitely contributed to that. And I think there's a real explanation, and I think it's as simple-minded as William really says. When you hang clothes to dry, and you put them all on, in your shower, and you squeeze them all together, they don't dry so fast as when you pull them apart. There's room in between there for the air to circulate. What Tai Chi is doing is creating these waves of expansion and contraction. That's healthy in itself, but what makes it especially healthy in Tai Chi is that you're doing this wave of energy and relaxation without your body getting tense. And because your body isn't getting tense, you're causing circulation to take place. You are pumping liquids, literally liquids around your body, your lymph, your blood, and to all parts of your body. You're oxygenating all parts of your body. You're removing waste from all parts of your body. There's mysterious circulations that, who knows what's really going on there in terms of acupuncture and those kinds of things. And so I think that's connected very much to the health benefit. If you increase your energy, and so if you ever notice, being tense is a band around your chest. William says it's also up here when I asked him about it last week. But you can feel this band of tightness around your chest. So now if you're exercising, but you still have that band of chest of tightness, you're not getting the benefit of the flow, of the pumping action of expanding and contracting. So your whole body works through these pumping actions. And so the most effective way to pump is to use gravity and to use relaxation to circulate inside yourself. And all of that's happening all automatically just by doing the Tai Chi form as instructed. So you don't have to work too hard to get those benefits, and they apply across the board. So there's mental benefits, and there's just plain physical benefits. And I have to say that push hands is causing some flexibility, and I think kicks falls right in there as being an important piece of this. Kicks where you're not, just like in a punch, you're not supposed to whack your elbow. In a kick, you're not supposed to whack your knees. So William used to teach a style of kicking, which he doesn't do anymore, that I think helps you learn how to kick in a way that you can do as you get older. Most of the people I know who study, who are very good karate types, they can't do their martial arts exercises anymore. And so you find more and more senior karate types and senior kung fu types all interested in Tai Chi. My other teacher, Min Pai, William at some point early on said, it's time to go somewhere else and learn some other things. So I studied with a teacher named Min Pai, who was, a dedicated Korean karate type, but he had become one of Chen Manqing's students. And I met him in Central Park, push hands. And I found out, as I went back to William, I found out years later, he became more and more oriented towards just doing Tai Chi as an exercise and stopped doing many of the forms that he used to teach. And I think that's right. All you need in the form side is the Tai Chi form.
So in your observation of through your practice, studying the form translates into all of the aspects, the martial aspect, the health aspect, the dealing with life in general and energy in general in all its aspects. Being alive can be, the form tells you and informs you constantly about how to deal with that.
I think if you take it as a martial arts form, I think that's a very important issue. It's a martial arts form. Everything comes from that. And the most basic thing that Tai Chi is trying to teach you is surprise me. It's trying to teach you about power, speed, and accuracy. You don't think about those very much. And the speed is not just speed of a strike or a kick, it's speed of movement. So I think that it's important to focus on the martial arts aspects and let the other things happen. A connection to breathing, those are all part of the martial arts aspect. Breathing at the right times through the form. If you focus on it, so I still teach it that way. In other words, I have some female students who are worried about self-defense, and then I have some old guys who could care less about self-defense. It doesn't matter. It's a martial arts exercise, and so if you think about, that's a block. Well, you might never do this block, but it helps you to think about that. This is a push. It's not a dance. Because of this expanding and contracting energy, right? So I think you can get all of that from the form, and then there are a lot of other things you need to do besides just the form to get all the advantages. But the form has sort of those secrets locked in. And it's weird, I was watching some famous push hands guy. I'd actually pushed hands with him once. He's a notorious Italian, I think he actually...
Talk about Mario Napoli?
Yeah, so I pushed hands with him once, and everybody thought I was, was going to throw me all over the place. But the guy immediately decided he wanted to play my game. As soon as he understood, I wasn't trying to beat one of the world's champions. I was working on, softness. He immediately got on that wavelength. But I saw it in a video that he made, which I would like to get and add to this channel. He was talking about how much he had learned about creating power from the form. So it was just interesting to see. There's so much you can take out of it was invented. I mean, Chen Mancheng himself was clearly a genius, right? So I have one of the videos up here. William is interviewed and talks about Chen Mancheng, and he said he used to think, he was a magic man. He could fly around the room at night. William lived with Chen Mancheng for a couple of years. I mean, Chen Mancheng was an expert artist, an expert swordsman, and a great push hands master, expert in Chinese medicine. And he couldn't even be bothered to learn English, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was Chiang Kai-shek's doctor, wasn't he?
I didn't know that.
My understanding of it, he was Chiang Kai. He went over there, with the Cultural Revolution, like a lot of them did, because for their own personal safety, they had to get out of mainland China, and he was apparently the family doctor.
And he learned from Yang Cheng Fu. So Chen Mancheng was he wasn't as frail and small as Dr. Tao, but he was not the athlete that William.
Yeah, he wasn't a big guy. Yeah.
And also William's a real athlete.
Yeah, he's a natural.
He's not a big guy, but he is, he was a lightweight boxer and he's a real athlete. Chen Mancheng wasn't. And when people would come to the school who wanted to fight Chen Mancheng, Chen Mancheng would point them to William.
Yeah.
But Chen Mancheng's teacher, Yang Cheng Fu, he was a big guy, right? And Chen Mancheng wrote the preface to Yang Cheng Fu's book. But what they left us, and then what William took and made little adjustments to, remember, Chen Mancheng took this 20-minute form. God knows I did not have the patience for that. I've never learned it.
And talking about the long form.
Long form.
Yeah.
Came up with the short form, and then William, over the years, has made subtle improvements to it. And if you look carefully at the videos of Chen Mancheng, and tell me if I'm running a little long here.
No, this is fine. This is working out great.
So if you look at the video, so notice with Chen Mancheng, we have the short form, push hands, and the sword. Some interesting interviews. So the interesting thing about Chen Mancheng is most of what you see, this is all taken in New York, in the New York School on Canal Street in the mid 60s to very early 70s. But if you go down and look at the very old ones, these two.
These were done in China or they were done in the States?
They were done in Taiwan.
Okay.
Right. And I couldn't tell. I tried to research it. They were either early 60s. This might have even been late 50s. They look more like William's form. So I would say William's form very much resembles Chen Mancheng's form when he was at his most martial. And if I would compare, so William's form is a little different and more closely resembles this a little more martial form that Chen Mancheng did when he was younger.
Okay.
On the sword form, I think that's interesting. I thought that the sword form, again, now these are all New York videos. He was still really into this stuff, and they're very martial, even compared to William's sword form, if you look at his sword form.
I think about Master Chen's sword form, he added some nuance to it, like when he does the Big Dipper, he has the sword across his forehead. Chen Mancheng raises it above his head. So he's protecting his head with the sword, Master Chen. And also on the three, where the feet come off the ground, this one in particular, where you're leaping over the stripe below, he has the first one going down, the second one going parallel to the ground, and the third one pointing to the sky.
Oh, that's interesting.
Master Chen added the nuance that Chen Mancheng does not have in it, and he eliminated some of the repeats. on some of the forward stance and back stance postures of the sword form.
I see. This is a very old, tiny clip.
Yeah, wearing a tie. Master Chen in a tie. Awesome. Well, Steven, this is great stuff. So we're going to do this again, and we're going to talk more about you showing the possibilities of where you can navigate on the site. But let's do this for now. Let's why don't you close your share, and I'm going to give you some definitions.